You sit across from her at dinner. Same restaurant. Same table. Same person you once couldn't stop laughing with. But tonight feels different. She's scrolling while you're talking. You stop mid-sentence. She doesn't even notice. And suddenly, the silence between you feels louder than the entire room. You tell yourself it's probably stress. Maybe she's tired. Maybe you're overthinking it. But deep down, something in you already knows. Why do I feel unwanted around someone who says they love me? Why does every conversation feel heavy now? Am I asking for too much? Or am I just scared to admit this relationship is dying? Here's the truth most people never hear, bro. Relationships rarely collapse in one dramatic moment. They erode through repeated emotional signals that quietly tell you you are no longer safe, valued, or respected here. And the hardest part? Some of those signals come disguised as honesty, as just being real, as that's just how she talks. But words matter, because language reveals emotional reality beneath the surface long before actions fully catch up. And if a woman repeatedly says certain things to you, it's usually not just frustration. It's a window into how she truly sees you now. You're not failing at love. And this is not about becoming cold, detached, or emotionally unavailable. It's about recognizing when connection has turned into contempt, when repair has stopped, when the relationship no longer feels like a place where both people are protecting each other emotionally. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 5 phrases that often signal a relationship has entered dangerous territory, why they damage connection at the nervous system level, and how to tell the difference between temporary conflict and a dynamic that will slowly destroy your self-worth if you stay. Let's get into it. Most couples believe relationships end because people stop loving each other. But the real truth is much deeper than that. People usually leave emotionally long before they leave physically. And you can hear it happening in the way they speak to each other. Because your nervous system is always listening for one thing: safety. Not perfection. Not constant romance. Not endless agreement. Safety. The feeling that even during conflict, you are still respected. Still valued. Still emotionally protected. And here's what nobody explains. When contempt enters a relationship, love starts going underground. Communication becomes sharper, colder, more humiliating. Most people think toxic communication is just yelling. It's not. Sometimes it's sarcasm, dismissiveness, subtle disrespect. Tiny emotional cuts repeated so often they become normal. Like scar tissue forming slowly over years. And this is where it gets really interesting. A healthy relationship can survive stress. It can survive conflict. It can survive seasons of emotional drift. But it cannot survive sustained emotional contempt without repair. Because eventually, one partner stops feeling emotionally safe enough to stay open. They become withdrawn, defensive, numb. Not because they stopped caring, but because their nervous system learned that closeness now equals pain. So as we go through these 5 phrases, don't just hear the words themselves. Hear the emotional reality beneath them, because that changes everything. 1. You'll never be enough for me. Here's the part no one talks about. Sometimes the most damaging relationships are not the explosive ones. They're the ones where you slowly start believing you are fundamentally inadequate. Most couples fight about behaviors, but this phrase attacks identity. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because there's a huge difference between, I need more emotional presence from you, and you are not enough. One invites repair. The other creates shame. And shame changes people. Your nervous system doesn't hear that sentence as feedback. It hears it as rejection. Like, who you are at your core is defective. And after enough repetition, something inside you starts shrinking. You over-explain yourself, overperform, overcompensate. You stop relaxing in the relationship because you're constantly trying to earn emotional approval that never fully comes. Most people in relationships don't even realize this cycle is happening beneath the surface. The anxious partner starts chasing validation. The other partner becomes emotionally dominant, and suddenly love feels less like connection and more like an audition. For example, the disconnecting version sounds like, "You never do anything right. Why can't you be more like other men? I shouldn't have to lower my standards for you." But the connecting version sounds completely different. "I miss feeling emotionally close to you. I want us to work together instead of against each other. I need more effort, but I still see your heart." Can you feel the difference? One attacks dignity. The other protects it, even during conflict. And when someone protects your dignity while expressing pain, your walls stop rising automatically because your nervous system no longer feels under attack. 2. I don't care what you feel. This is where it gets really interesting, because emotionally mature relationships are not built on constant agreement. They're built on emotional consideration. Most couples think communication problems come from saying the wrong thing. But usually, the real issue is that one partner no longer feels emotionally held while speaking. And this phrase exposes that instantly. I don't care how you feel. Not misunderstood. Not overwhelmed. Not emotionally flooded. Just emotionally disconnected. And bro, once someone consistently stops caring about your internal experience, the relationship becomes emotionally dangerous. Because humans bond through emotional responsiveness. When you speak pain and your partner responds with presence, connection deepens. But when you speak pain and get contempt, dismissal, or mockery, your nervous system starts associating vulnerability with humiliation. That's when people become emotionally guarded, quiet, withdrawn. Not because they're cold, because they no longer feel safe opening. Here's a real example. Disconnecting response. You're too sensitive. I don't care if that hurt you. That sounds like your problem. Connecting response. I don't fully understand your feelings yet, but I want to. I can see this hit something deeper for you. Talk to me. I'm listening. And here's what changes everything. Emotional safety is not your partner agreeing with every feeling you have. Not constant reassurance. Not walking on eggshells. Not avoiding hard conversations. It's knowing your emotions won't be weaponized against you once you reveal them. That's real intimacy. And when you experience that consistently, your partner stops feeling like someone you must defend yourself from and starts feeling like someone you can finally exhale around. 3. I can replace you anytime. Man, this one destroys trust faster than most people realize. Because beneath the surface, this sentence isn't confidence. It's emotional intimidation. Most couples threaten separation occasionally during heated conflict. That's unhealthy enough. But repeatedly reminding someone they are replaceable creates chronic emotional insecurity inside the relationship. And your nervous system feels that immediately. Because healthy love says, I choose you. Toxic dynamics say, you should feel lucky I tolerate you. Huge difference. One creates connection. The other creates fear-based attachment. And fear can keep people attached temporarily, but it can never create real closeness. Here's what nobody explains. When someone repeatedly threatens your place in their life, your brain starts operating in survival mode instead of emotional openness. You stop being authentic. You become hypervigilant. Your inner dialogue becomes, if I upset her, she'll leave. If I'm not perfect, I'm replaceable. I have to earn basic stability. That is not love. That is emotional instability disguised as romance. For example, disconnecting version, there are plenty of men who would treat me better. I could replace you tomorrow. You're not special. Connecting version, I'm hurt right now, but I still want us. I want us to fight for this instead of threatening each other. I need reassurance too. Do you see the emotional difference? One conversation invites repair. The other creates emotional panic. And when a relationship becomes emotionally unsafe like that, intimacy slowly disappears. Because nobody can stay emotionally available while constantly fearing abandonment. 4. You're weak. And this is the one most couples never figure out. Contempt disguised as toughness is still contempt. Most people in relationships think emotional invalidation only happens through yelling. But ridicule can wound even deeper, especially for men, because many men already carry unspoken pressure to appear strong all the time, calm all the time, unbothered all the time. So when vulnerability gets mocked instead of respected, something shuts down internally. Fast. A man opens emotionally once, gets humiliated for it, and suddenly his nervous system learns, never do that again. That's how emotional walls form. Not overnight, but through repeated moments where honesty felt unsafe. Here's the disconnecting version. You're acting pathetic. Man up. You're too emotional. No real man would feel this way. Now compare that to emotional maturity. I know this hit you hard. You don't have to pretend with me. I'd rather hear the truth than watch you suffer quietly. One creates shame around vulnerability. The other creates safety around honesty. And honestly, this matters more than people realize. Because emotionally available men are not born. They are created in environments where vulnerability is respected instead of punished. And when someone feels emotionally safe enough to stop performing strength all the time, that's when real connection finally starts replacing emotional survival mode. 5. I hate who you are. This is the line where many relationships quietly die beneath the surface. Not because conflict happened, but because identity-level rejection entered the relationship. Most couples survive arguments. They survive stress. They survive emotional drift. But sustained character assassination changes the emotional atmosphere completely. Because there's a difference between, I'm struggling with your behavior, and I hate who you are. One addresses actions. The other attacks existence. And your nervous system experiences that as emotional danger immediately. Here's the thing. Healthy couples still get angry, still frustrated, still overwhelmed. But emotionally mature people protect each other's humanity even during conflict. That's the difference. Not perfect communication. Not never raising your voice. Not always knowing the right words. But refusing to destroy each other emotionally just because you're hurting. Here's a real contrast. Disconnecting version. You disgust me. You ruin everything. I hate the person you are. Connecting version. I'm angry right now, but I don't want to tear you down. We need repair, not destruction. I still see you as my partner even in this moment. And here's what changes everything. Real love is not measured by how affectionate someone is during easy moments. It's measured by whether they protect your dignity during hard ones. Because when contempt becomes normal, the relationship stops feeling like a refuge and starts feeling like emotional warfare. And nobody thrives there. This isn't a checklist for becoming cynical about women. And it's not permission to run the second conflict appears. Real relationships are messy. People say hurtful things sometimes. Repair matters. But repeated contempt without accountability changes you internally if you stay too long. You become smaller, more anxious, more emotionally disconnected from yourself. And the goal of love was never to lose yourself trying to keep someone else. So pay attention to patterns. Pay attention to emotional safety. Pay attention to whether the relationship helps you become more emotionally grounded or more emotionally broken. Because this isn't about ego, it's about self-respect. And when you internalize this, you stop confusing emotional chaos with passion and start recognizing that real connection is built on safety, respect, and the ability to protect each other even when things get hard. These aren't just red flags. They're emotional road signs showing you what kind of future this relationship is becoming. And the truth is simple. Real intimacy doesn't survive where dignity constantly dies.